Hello, I'm Mal. If you're unfamiliar with me or my channel, first off, welcome. Secondly, you're going to find all kinds of games here, but I do tend to lean towards strategy, simulation, and role-playing games, and today we revisit a title from the strategy genre, the rebooted Master of Orion. For your point of reference, it's June 24th. Master of Orion moves into what the devs are referring to as Phase 5 of its early access development. Phase 5 brings many new refinements to the game, and today we're going to explore the most impactful changes and not every change. So if you're just looking for like a regurgitation of the changelog, that's not what this video is. I'm going to talk about really the biggest and most impactful changes to the meta of the game because it has changed significantly with Phase 5. Now, of course, if you want a full list of Phase 5 changes, that'll be in the description below this video. So let's jump in, shall we? What are we going to discuss in detail? First off, we're going to talk about race and empire changes. We're going to talk about the new reworked racial and empire traits and the trait system overhaul. We're going to talk about, because it's connected to it, we're going to talk about which races are quote-unquote best based on difficulty, because there is now a new high-end difficulty called Extreme, and there's going to be certain strats that I'll share with you that I really think will help you if you want to play on that difficulty level. We're going to talk about the biome and growth changes. So there's a lot of different opening strategies now because there is a new meta. So we'll talk about that because I want to make sure people understand that when they go into Phase 5 that fundamentally this has really changed the way you're probably going to want to approach the game. And then we'll talk about the importance of, which planets to colonize at different phases of the game too, because there used to be sort of a pretty clear order in which to do that, and it was sort of throughout the entire game. Not so much anymore. We'll talk about AI changes, its difficulty, its aggressiveness, all which are different in Phase 5. We'll talk about the tech tree and the changes that have been made. There's more emphasis on choice, having to make real decisions about which techs that you get. We'll talk about the new techs. And also, again, we'll tie this into game impact. How is this going to alter how you play Master of Orion? I think also too aligned with that, there are things in the trait system now like creative and uncreative, and that will change the way those empires play out. So we'll tie all that into the tech discussion as well. We'll talk about quality of life improvements a little bit, planet overview, different icons, empire management, things like that. And then I'll probably wrap up with tactical combat and ship designer tweaks. There might be some miscellaneous things that we throw in there, but this is going to be the meat of the discussion during this video. So I do want to make it clear again that Phase 5 of the Early Access has changed the current meta of the game. So your conflicts are going to happen sooner. Your ability to rapidly expand is actually going to be slowed. And if you play on the new extreme difficulty, ready yourself for very different AI behavior. Alright, so let's take a look at these new traits and the new trait system that's been streamlined in Phase 5. You can see here that the Alkari, as an example, has militarist, natural pilot, then it has the traditional artifacts and large homeworld. So this is an example of the new traits, but I think it might be easier to just sort of look at those as a custom race. So we'll do that, and then we'll come back individually and look at the empire. So let's go here to custom race, and you'll see that the points have been altered drastically. It was like, 20, 30, 40, 50 points. Now it's a much simpler system. You have 10 points available. You can gain points, of course, by taking negatives and what have you, and you can design your race as you see fit. However, when you select some of these new sort of combined traits, some of them are not going to be compatible with other choices. Like you're not going to be able to sort of double up. But let's go through these. So you've got Diplomat, which is 3 points. And that gives you starting tech of government and plus 10 morale. There's militarist, which gives you technology engineering and increases marine training rate. You've got technologist, so you get starting with physics. You also get homeworld specials artifacts. Ecologist, you get starting technology biology. You get pollution tolerance 25%. Industrialist, starting technology physics. Production from population plus 25%. Expansionist, starting technology engineering, starting technology biology. Subterranean, you get Uber Planet Cavernous, homeworld biome is desert. Plains Dweller, Uber Planet Grassland, homeworld biome is arid. Jungle Creature, Uber Planet Tropical, homeworld biome swamp. Lava Breather, Uber Planet Inferno, homeworld biome volcanic. And then you've got lithivore, which is no food consumption, cybernetic, repulsive, some of these that you are familiar with, and some of them that you may not be familiar with, such as creative. Now, this is a carryover from Master of Orion II. Certain races will start with this, like the Cylon, but you could choose this as a custom race as well. So what creative is going to allow you to do is, I'll give you an early game example. You have a choice between say, Class 1 shields and ECM jammer. Now, especially in the early game, those are both advantageous to have. A lot of races are going to use missiles, so it'd be great to have ECM jamming, as well as shields, but unless you trade for it or steal it, you're not going to be able to do that, right? Because it's a one or the other at that level. If you have creative, you're going to automatically get everything on that tier. But you can see very quickly how that's pretty powerful. And since the tech tree has changed, and we'll talk about that more later in the video, there are more of those kinds of changes and choices that you have to make as a player, so it provides even more value for creative. Now, on the flip side of that, you have uncreative, which means you're basically going to randomly get a technology on those tiers, and you have minus 25% research by population. Oh, and creative gives you plus 25% research by population. You've got tolerant, which is gravity makes no difference to you, so be it high or low. You now have traders, so you get bonuses to trade treaties and trade good bonuses. Stealthy, ship improvements stealth. And then this new statistic, which is missions risk. In previous builds, you had mission duration or reduction of mission duration. Now, when you go to select an operation, it's going to say low, medium, or high risk. And then obviously an improvement like this, reducing your risk, hopefully would keep your spy alive. So it just depends on if you want to build that. Shapeshifters, plus 10% to security, assimilation power plus 25%, and security now ranges level 1 through 5, and the tech that you have, whether or not you have a covert op assigned, all will affect that. Again, there's lots of things that are changing in Phase 5, lots of changes, and I'm going to focus on the big ones, but I'll mention some of these others as we go through. Strategist, plus 20% command points, minus 20 to ship cost. Natural pilot, plus 50% to beam defense, plus 25% to attack, improved travel speed, improved combat bonus. That's kind of crazy. And then Warlord, which is plus 50% to ground combat rating, and you get extended barracks. So now let's go back. We'll take a look at the actual races. So the Akaris have militarists and natural pilots. The Barathi have ecologist, rich homeworld, large homeworld, high gravity tolerance, and then an additional combat rating. The Darloks have diplomat, starting tech government, and plus 10 morale. They're stealthy, and then they have the new shapeshifters, so plus 10% to security and plus 25% assimilation power. Humans, diplomat, starting technology government, plus 10% morale. Prismatic. Now, you can pick this up as an individual item under custom race as well. The new AI, and I'll talk about this throughout the video, it's really aggressive, especially on the higher difficulty levels. Like extreme, I guess the best way to describe it is that the AIs are going to come try to eat your face off, like really early. Conflict starts much earlier. Like, I think typically in a 500 turn game, you would see your first conflict maybe around turn 75, and then certainly by around 125, you're going to have some kind of conflict, some kind of war. In Phase 5, I've seen conflict start at like turn 50. So, and especially on higher difficulty levels, even your quote-unquote friends, let's say you've got long-standing non-aggression and trade agreements and everything else, the AI will turn on you and backstab the hell out of you. So, Prismatic, however, is one way to counter that, at least in this build of Phase 5. So the humans are much better than they were in Phase 4. As a matter of fact, I really like them quite a bit. And when I build custom race, I like this trait specifically, Prismatic. Improved negotiations, improved disposition, can keep the other aliens from aggressively going after you in the early to mid game. It's quite a powerful trait. Traders, so they get trading bonus, as well as trade good bonus, and then security is lower than normal, so that's going to knock you down basically one security level. I guess because they have a free and open society, silly humans. The Klakon are industrialists, so they get the starting tech physics and then production bonus. Subterranean, Uber Planet Cavernous, and Desert Biome. They're uncreative, so they have a research hit, and then they're going to randomly, again, they'll randomly get a tech when there's those decision levels. So again, I'll use the example, class 1 shields or ECM, you're not even going to get to choose, it's just going to randomly give you one of those. And then food from population plus 50%. Let me talk about that a bit too. There are big changes, and I'll go into more specificity here in the next section, but this is a big deal. Growth is different. The way biomes are handled is different. So you may be looking at them and going, well, they're basically the same. And then I don't know about this uncreative thing, but this plus 50% food from production or population is huge, coupled with the production bonus. So, don't count out the Klakon. They're still quite powerful. The Meklar, they have industrialists, so starting technology physics, and then plus 20% from production from population. And then they're cybernetics, so their food consumption is 50% less. And they have ship auto repair. They're very similar to the way they were in phase 4, but they're still quite powerful. The Martian, they have militarists, so again, starting technology engineering, ground units, marine training rate. They have plains dwellers, so Ubu Planet's grassland, homeworld biome is arid. They have warlord, ground combat rating plus 50%, and then they have extended barracks. And then diplomacy, race has lower chances of, other races accepting deals. I still think that they're relatively weak. This can be good in the early game. And I'll talk a little bit about that as soon as I'm done showing you all of them, like which ones I think work best on each difficulty. The Cylons are technologists, so they starting technology physics, and homeworld specials are artifacts. They're creative, so on each level they're going to get every tech automatically, and then the plus 25% from population to research. Small homeworld, gravity tolerance is low, so that's obviously a somewhat limiting factor, but that's going to be negated by tech at some point with gravity generators. And then they too have, like an more open society, so they have minus 20 for their security rating. The Sakura, they are expansionists, so they start with engineering and biology tech. They're jungle creatures, so they've got tropical Uber planet and swamp biome for their home. This is another race that's uncreative, so they're going to randomly get whatever tech they happen to get on the tech levels where you make a choice. And then they get population growth of plus 25% higher than normal. Silicoid, they have lithivore, so they don't consume any food. They're lava breathers, so they have Uber planet Inferno, homeworld biome volcanic. They're repulsive. So diplomacy, they're going to have worsening negotiations and then disposition. So this, especially if you're going to play on higher difficulties, again, this can be kind of tough if you want to play as them. They are tolerant, so all gravity levels are fine for them. And then their homeworld size is huge. Last but not least, we have the Terran Khanate. They are militarists, so engineering and marine training rate. They are strategists, so they get plus 20% to command points and minus 20% to ship cost, plus 25% to beam attack, plus 20% to their morale. Now, when we're talking about the difficulty level, if you're going to play on normal or hard, then I would say that you're probably safe to play any of these races, and as long as you're somewhat familiar with Master of Orion, you're going to have, probably a good and challenging game. As you move up in difficulty to very hard or the new extreme difficulty, what I would tell you is that some of these races are not viable. Now, this will probably be changed and they'll make additional tweaks and what have you, but as it stands now, it's very, very difficult to play some of these. It's very difficult to play the Cylons. It's somewhat challenging to play the Silicoid. It's really tough to play the Darlock, and the reason for this is because you need to be able to establish yourself quickly because aggression starts so much sooner in Phase 5. I mentioned earlier that I've seen conflict start as early as turn 60 in a Circle Galaxy. So you have to be prepared for that. So you have to have a standing fleet, which you didn't necessarily have to have before. You could just really explore and expand. And then what race you played didn't matter a whole lot. If you were good at the game, then you were going to be able to get through. But on these higher difficulties, the AI is far more aggressive, and it's quite a bit smarter now too, which is fun on one hand, but could be frustrating on another. So I just want to kind of share that tip with you. If you want to play on very hard or extreme difficulty, then I would suggest that you either go with a custom race, or you maybe play the Terran is a good choice, the Barathi is a good choice, the Alkari are a good choice, and really what you're looking for are statistics that are going to help you in combat and things that are going to scale well or give you some kind of a start right out of the gate. But the big thing is things that scale well. Like the Martian, as an example, none of this really scales that well. Okay, plus 50% to combat rating, but that doesn't help you a whole lot. And the worsening diplomacy on top of it, this is a pretty weak race, in my opinion. If you want a suggestion here on custom race, what I would suggest is that you pick up the additional diplomacy options. So let's see here. Here we go, Charismatic. You tag that, and then maybe on top of that, take something like, Industrialist. This is a good combo. I've had success with this. And then you can even tag, like, say, Artifacts. This is a good combo. And this works really well because what it allows you to do is stay kind of on an even keel with your AI opponents until you've beefed yourself up enough that you're able to actually go after one of them. Otherwise, if you don't have this, if you don't have Charismatic with the improved disposition and negotiations, is that you get attacked really early on, and you can't beat the AI because they're just going to have a fleet that's too big or their tech's going to be much better. So this is sort of my suggestion. If you want to play on very hard or extreme, maybe try out this custom race that I'm showing you here, or like I said, maybe play one of those other races that's good right out of the gate. All right, so let's move on to the next section. Let's talk about biome and growth changes. All right, so let's talk about biome and growth changes. Now, in the initial changelog notes, I didn't see a lot of reference to this. It maybe was included in the balance pass, but this really needs to be something that you fundamentally understand that has changed. In the early game, if you've watched any of my Let's Plays, then you know that oftentimes I will opt for a biome that's less than inviting if it's got some additional traits, be it, additional research or, gems for additional income or really high production, because it wasn't that big a deal to overcome a bad biome. So let's take a look at an example here. We've got Salvatore 4 here has got artifacts. It's abundant, it's medium sized, but it's toxic. Before phase 5, I might actually grab this planet early on because of the artifacts bonus that we would, additional research that could come in really handy. Or let's just say that this was a really, super, high mineral world, 4 or 5, rich or ultra rich. Then I'd grab it, no question, because it made sense to. Because you would get some initial food supply from the colony ship, and it was not that big to overcome with technology. Eventually, you get a toxic processor, and then this becomes a barren world, and you just sort of go from there. But that's not the case in Phase 5. Now it's changed. So we've got this other planet here, medium, ocean world, so it's a level 4 biome, and it's mineral abundant with no specials. Between these two, without question, I would grab this planet with the better biome because it is, again, very different in terms of the growth rate. Okay, so let's take a look at this. Let's go ahead and colonize. We'll skip that. All right, so watch this. Remember, previous to Phase 5, you'd have some baseline food to sustain the colony. Not so much anymore. You have nothing. So, with that in mind, you basically have to buy yourself a food source or buy yourself an automated factory and then build a food source. Yeah, so there's some pretty big game implications here. Not only does the biome matters now, because look at this. Look at this. 63 turns. And there's someone on food. Okay, so even once I put in hydroponics, even once I have a hydroponic farm, we're still looking at 30 to 40 turns for your second pop. This means that techs like civil transports that can move population from one planet to another now become very, very important. I've always advocated doing that, having a couple of worlds that farm out civil transports, but it wasn't something I worried about too much. Now, it's critically important that you have 1 or 2 worlds in your empire that have all the food stuff, and if they've got a special, like, fungus or something that gives even more food, make those planets exclusively build you civil transports to send population to other worlds. You're going to kind of have to do that, especially on higher difficulties. Otherwise, you won't grow fast enough. It also means that those empires that have growth bonuses or food reduction or what have you, they're even more advantageous to play than they were before. Now, something else to bear in mind is that in the tech tree, there are some new techs. One of those, and we'll look at it in more detail here later in the video, but there is also now an advanced colony ship, and when it sets down, it adds quite a few structures right off the bat. So once you get to that tech, it gets a little bit easier, but this change I think is a good one, and basically what it prevents is just the massive spamming of colony ships in the early game. It was just a little bit too easy to expand out. And I agree. I think it's a good change, and I've played through it quite a bit, several different scenarios, and it can feel really long in terms of growth, and it can actually initially be kind of frustrating if you've been playing the game. You're like, why is this taking so damn long? So what you can do is you can adjust your starting settings to increase growth if you want to have it more similar to Phase 4. But again, I think the concept you're going to have to jump on with is that you got to get the civil transport tech, and you're going to have to use that liberally. All right, let's move on to AI changes, difficulty, aggressiveness, and that I sort of touched on that already, but I just want to talk about it a little bit more. So let's move on to that. So I've talked a little bit about the changes in terms of the difficulty and the AI's behavior. Very, very specifically, I want people to understand that if you're going to play on very hard or extreme, that you can expect really, really early aggression and tactical combat. For those of you that play with tactical combat on, it's a lot more fun now and quite a bit more engaging. I'd like to be able to show you a lineup with like a really powerful fleet. Unfortunately, I don't seem to have that readily available. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attack this planet because I think it's got some defenses. It does. It's only a missile base, but it'll kind of show you the differences between Phase 4 and Phase 5. You'll be able to see right away if you're familiar with previous versions of Master of Orion. So let's take command. Yep, we want to go to war. Okay, so we come in, and what you're going to notice right away is that missile base is right in the middle of the map. The interface is also different, so it starts off paused, but let's go ahead and pause this real quick. You'll see here we've got energy absorber, we've got automated repair unit, and these are actually now are things that you activate. They are real hotkeys. So like automated repair unit, and let me see if I can keep from destroying everything so that I can show you this. Let me see if I can move. Let's see, ceasefire. There we go. That's also new, as far as it working in any case. So we're just gonna move away. And let me speed this up because I want to show you guys. This is really cool. So here's the automated repair unit. I'm going to activate that. Let's see. I don't think we're hurt yet is part of the problem. Let me slow down here. Can I get that? Or how about energy absorber then? Here we go. Automated repair unit. And you can see the automated repair unit effect. So there's these little bots going around fixing the ship as it gets damaged. I think it's a super cool change that they've added, this visual effect. Let's go ahead and finish these guys off. And what I have found now is that in combat, first off, ships will aggressively come out, as you can see there. It didn't wait. Also, ships will break off and try to flank you. They won't all come in like a clump. So tactical combat, obviously I had overwhelming force here, but tactical combat is much more interesting and much more fun now in Phase 5. So we still don't have a really engaging colony assault yet, but hopefully we'll get something, at least some kind of combat screen for Marines at some point, but that hasn't come in. But in terms of the aggressiveness of the AI I had mentioned earlier in the video, you can expect your first conflict somewhere around turn 70, 75. I have seen as early as 50 or 60 amongst the AIs on the higher difficulties. So instead of not having a fleet, what you're going to want to do is have a little bit of a standing fleet. And as a general rule of thumb, if you want to be semi-safe on a very difficult or extreme, then you're going to want to have basically your command points capped. So if you've got, say, 25 or 30 command points, you want to have a fleet that's that full. If you're playing on a lower difficulty level, and depending on which AIs you pick as your opponents, maybe some of the less aggressive ones, though they all seem to be aggressive now, then you could probably get by with like half of your command point total. So a couple of destroyers, 2 or 3 destroyers, and then very early on getting yourself military outposts to protect key systems. I suggest that you go that route. But overall, the AI challenge is amped up in Phase 5. One of the complaints from people was that it wasn't hard enough. I don't think you're going to find that that's the case now. As a matter of fact, it might have gone too much the other way. You might get frustrated on higher difficulty levels now because the aliens come and smash your collective faces, which certainly happened to me. I had to play around and tweak things quite a bit before I figured out a strategy that would work for me on extreme difficulty. So that's a cool and I think new change. And again, there's a lot of new stuff in this Phase 5 update, and I'm not going to go into every piece of it. Again, I've just been focusing specifically on what I think were the biggest changes to the metagame of Master of Orion in Phase 5. Okay. All right, let's talk about tech tree changes, new tech, choices, and game impact. Let's take a little bit of a closer look here. Search tech tree. Okay, so first off, as you go along, there are, again, more choices to make. As an example here, toxic processor and xenobiotics, you've got a choice between soil enrichment facility and deep sea cooling. You've got more choices in terms of, like tachyon physics. You've got 3 choices there. They're all good. And then we have new techs, for example, and I'll bring these up in detail here. Advanced colony ship. This is kind of a big one. So let me show you what happens when you set this down on a planet. And then you have other techs that come along. As an example, let's see. Also have late game tech changes. Where is it? Ah, here we go. Phasing cloak, that's a new tech. We also have changes to when you get doom stars. We also have the Artemis system net, which is a defensive structure. Lots of cool changes to the tech tree. I still think there needs to be some other shuffles, particularly with regards to some of the research facilities, but overall, tech tree is more diverse. You have to make more decisions. And the fact that you now have that creative and uncreative trade, it adds some more diversity to what techs your opponents are going to have or not going to have, which I think is pretty cool. All right, so what does that mean in terms of game impact? Well, depending on what race you're playing, I think the biggest piece is it opens up more opportunities to trade tech. So there is another reason. Diplomacy is still one area of the game that's a little bit weak, and I hope more depth is added and also more realistic reactions from other empires. Like, I don't think you should have every empire give you the same offer at the beginning of the game for like an embassy or whatever. They want 9 credits annually and something else. Every single race, for the most part, is going to give you the same deals. And with tech too. I want to see a tech trading system that's a little bit more fair, and they continue to make adjustments with every balance pass. But I think it keeps the game interesting, and I like the new techs that they're injecting into the tree. They've also made some little tweaks too with like naming and things like that. Like, for instance, planetary guns or whatever are now orbital batteries, which makes more sense since they're like floating in space. But a lot of refinement here. I really, really like these changes. Okay, let's move on to quality of life improvements. Okay, so quality of life improvements. First off, the UI, in my opinion, continues to improve with every passing of each new phase. I was so hoping that there were things that were going to be improved upon in this one, and some of them were surprising. Like, for instance, let's take a look at the planet, just the overview above the planet now. You have the clear indication of the population and when it's going to grow, your current project, and how many turns that's going to be. That's really nice. Even when you slide out, you only have to zoom in just a little bit to get that information, which I think is pretty darn cool. And then, oh my lord, thank you so much, but you can now sort. I've been waiting for the sort actually works now. And you also have security level, and you also have morale. All of this stuff is in here. Pollution is in here, so you can sort by that. You can also add your queue right here. You can buy something. You can set auto build. This is just much improved. Now, what I'd like to see, and who knows, maybe this will come when I see the next build, but I'd like to be able to remove something right here too. But hey, this is a step in the right direction, and I really, really appreciate it. Also, path to victory. I talked about this in other videos. Now, if you've disabled a tech type, it'll actually just be grayed out. So, like, if I decided I didn't want a technological victory type, this would just be grayed out, and the others would still have their information, obviously, but you wouldn't have to. Like, did I disable that? Because I've done that in my own Let's Plays. Like, did I disable that victory type? I don't remember. And then you're sort of sweating bullets if somebody's ahead of you, but it'll just clear it out. So, also a nice quality of life change. Okay, so let's see. Let's move on to tactical combat and ship designer twerks. Okay, so I just got done researching a new technology. Let's go ahead and select hyperdrive. Then we're going to update our plans. You can see here we've got the upgrade icon along the side and what it's going to upgrade. And then it tells us very specifically what's going to change. So we can see that we're going to get increased beam defense. We're going to get increased combat speed. It's going to cost us 1 more production point on this particular ship. Let's take a look here at our Titan here. It's going to cost us 3 more production points. We'll get 0.30 beam defense. We'll get 0.03 combat speed. So obviously on the big ship, it's not going to help as much. Travel speed is going to go up 1. It's not going to change anything to these other stats, but I like this. And if you, upgrade a weapon type or what have you, a new weapon, it's also going to give you the same kind of information, and it updates on the fly, which is pretty sweet. We'll just say, yep, we want to upgrade that. And there you go. It's all set. It preserved everything else that I was doing, which is great. The ship designer has gone through several different iterations, and I hope it doesn't change much more. I really feel like it's easy to use now. I can just grab, I can just say edit, grab something and throw it off, and then I can just click on what I want and slap it in there. I can even overbuild, which is really cool. So, like, as an example, hey, let's go ahead and put a ridiculous number of weapons on here. You can see that I can overbuild and it'll take it. Now, I can't commit, but I can continue to make tweaks until I get it below the threshold, and then I can say done and it'll save it, which is pretty cool. Again, I hope they don't make too many more changes to this. I think it's in good shape at this point. I don't think it needs to change much. All right, so let's move on. All right, folks, so let's wrap this up. We've talked about the race and empire changes. We've talked about biome and growth changes. We've talked about the new AI challenges, its difficulty, its aggressiveness. We've talked briefly about the tech changes, the choices that you're going to have to make, the quality of life improvements, and then changes to tactical combat and ship design tweaks. And I wanted to focus on what I felt were the biggest impact points from a meta perspective, because the way I play the game has certainly changed. And I think for those of you that maybe have been playing during the early access phases, you're going to find that your gameplay will change with this new phase 5. And I would encourage everyone to, spend some quality time kind of getting used to it, because it is fundamentally different. And if you've been playing on high difficulties, try not to get too frustrated, because the AI is super aggressive now. And sometimes it doesn't make any sense. Like, you can be good buddies with somebody and then they'll just turn around and try to eat your face off. But try to keep your cool. I'm sure we got a lot of smart Master of Orion players out there that you'll figure out a path forward if you want to continue to play on high difficulties. I have every confidence. Anyway, I hope that you've enjoyed this Phase 5 update for Master of Orion. If you did, please consider hitting that thumbs up. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, I am Mal, and I hope you leave contented.